for some of the various expansions. So there's a lot of different spirit characters that you can play, and I've only played a few. But similarly to Agricola, we don't play it a lot because it is very complex and it's hard to find a group of people who all want to be in a very focused, strategic mindset for a few hours. for combat so that you can take different strategies rather than just attack, roll, attack, roll, attack, roll. So Gloomhaven might be tricky, but hopefully one day I will get to play Gloomhaven most of the way through. At least more than a couple campaigns would be nice. The next game that I need to play again, which actually kind of feels like Everdell, is Root. It's similar to Everdell in that it is wildlife foresty communities, and also similar because they're kind of complex, and Root even more so. The very unique thing about Root is each player takes on a different community. So I think there's, cats, squirrels, forest animals. So if you're the cats, you have a completely different goal to win the game, a completely different structure than if you are the squirrels or another group. And so, depending on who you're playing, you kind of have your own set of instructions. You have your own prerogative, and I really like that dynamic. And like I said, I've only played it once, but from what I've heard, it's a very well balanced game, which is very difficult to do when it's an asymmetrical game. Different people are doing different things. It's hard to keep it balanced, but Root managed to do that from what I've heard. So I actually only played this one time, and it was on a tabletop simulator, which is essentially like a virtual board game table that you manually move the pieces. Nothing's coded in unless you have that customization, but for the most part you're just moving pieces in a virtual setting, which to me is very fiddly, and sometimes I like to have the in-person interaction and the tactile feel of the pieces. So it's not always my favorite to be doing things virtually, especially for a game that's built to be tactile and in person. It just feels very disorienting to play it on the tabletop simulator. So I definitely need to play Root again. Also, the art for Root is very well done, very cute. All fits the same vibe. The next game that I want to play again, I've played a few times, but it's just, I don't know, a very relaxing experience for me, is Between Two Cities. And one of the things that just completely sold this game to me is how my brother taught it to me. So, he's explaining the rules. You have this city, you use these tiles to build the city. You want to build the best city, but there's a twist, which is each of the cities is in between two players. That's why it's called Between Two Cities. So, just the way he did it, maybe I'm not explaining it right, but he explained the whole game to me as if I had one city and then rotated the tile much from that fact alone, from that explanation from my brother. I like already loved the game, but actually playing it is a good time too. It's just a very calming game, and there's something about urban planning that's very interesting to me. And my sister, Sweater's sister, is also very much into urban planning, public housing, history, like that sort of stuff. I just think it's very interesting, and so it's fun to have a game that's focused around urban planning, positioning parks in a way that's most useful to people, positioning restaurants and offices together, having a flow